Nobody likes feeling stupider than the next person. Hence, the trick is to make the other person feel smart. But not just smart, smarter than you. Winter 1872. The U.S. financier, Asbury Harpendine, was informed of a diamond mine which was found in the West. He figured this had to be a joke, of course, but then again, people thought the same thing during the gold rush, so figured he had to check it out. Turns out that the diamond mine was discovered by two crusty prospectors, Philip Arnold and John Slack. And so they took an expert to check this out. While he did not reveal the precise location of the mine, he took him in sort of a circular, obfuscated route to show the expert the mine without revealing its true location. And so upon arriving, they discovered tons of diamonds and gems, and he went to a jeweler to estimate the value of these diamonds, to which he found them to be about $1.5 million. And so Harpendine asked these prospectors to come to New York with him to get Tiffany himself to verify the estimates. Now, the two crusty prospectors were reluctant to agree to this, considering they had some trust issues with these city slickers. Perhaps they might try to pull a fast one on them. They weren't exactly the brightest. And so they were offered $100,000 in cash and $300,000 in escrow to make the trip to New York. And so they agreed to do it. The group traveled to New York, where a meeting was held. All of the city's aristocracy was there, but Philip and Arnold decided to go sightseeing in the meanwhile. And so after Tiffany confirmed that the estimates were indeed true, these diamonds were real, they could hardly contain their excitement. But at the same time, they decided that they wanted one more test. And so the prospectors agreed to do one more test. They brought an expert again, and this time they dug up even more gems, more diamonds, more rubies, and it convinced the expert to say that they could probably send out $1 million in diamonds every 30 days. And so the aristocrats all decided to form a $10 million cooperation and investment. But first, they had to get rid of Arnold and Slack. And that meant they had to hide their true excitement. It meant hiding the field's true value. And so they decided to play possum. They told Arnold and Slack that if they insisted on having shares in the mine, they would probably just end up getting fleeced by these more intelligent and experienced investors, and instead, they should just take the $700,000 in cash and be on their way. And so Arnold and Slack seemed to understand this. They understood that they weren't the most experienced in finance and investing, so they decided to take the $700,000 and they signed over the rights to the mine. Now, a couple of weeks later, the aristocrats found out the harsh truth. Not a single diamond or ruby was to be found. They were all ruined. Harpendine had unwittingly lured the richest men in the world into the biggest scam of the century. You see, Arnold and Slack pulled off this con not by using fake engineering or bribing Tiffany. All these experts were real. All of them honestly believed in the value of the mine. What had them fooled was Arnold and Slack themselves. They appeared to be so gullible and naive. Nobody thought they would be so capable of such a scam. Arnold and Slack simply observed the law of appearing more stupid than the mark, the deceiver's first commandment. The logistics of the con were very simple too. Arnold and Slack simply purchased some real gems in Europe for about $12,000 and had just salted the mine with them, allowing them to be dug up later on. With the $100,000 deposit they got, they bought even more jewels and did the same thing, turning up even more diamonds for the experts the next time. The effectiveness of the scheme all came down to the parts that Arnold and Slack played as fools. In New York, among the millionaires, they wore oversized or undersized clothing and act incredulous at everything they saw in the city as they were sightseeing. No one believed that these simpletons could be conning the most clever financiers of all time. In the end, Harpendine was ruined and the other millionaires learned their lessons. Arnold and Slack lived happily ever after because the sale of the land was legitimate after all. They even pretended to be reluctant to accept the $700,000. The feeling that someone else is smarter than we are is intolerable. Thus, it is essential to never insult somebody's intelligence. But if you could make this rule work for you, it opens all kinds of avenues of deception. Subliminally reassure people that they are more intelligent than you are, or even that you are a bit of a moron and you could run rings around them. The feeling of intellectual superiority you provide them will reduce all suspicions. The Chinese have a phrase, masquerading as a swine to kill the tiger, which refers to an ancient hunting tactic in which the hunter dresses and makes noises like a pig in order to get close enough to the tiger. Those financiers were laughing at Arnold and Slack behind their backs, but who laughed the hardest in the end? Sometimes, even in social situations, this principle matters too. In the short term, you need to put your ego aside. Let people think you're dumb, because in the end game is what matters. Who's going to have the last laugh? Understanding this rule is not difficult. Rather, it's the execution. It's very difficult to temporarily put your pride to the side for a long-term outcome. Remember to keep your eye on the prize, though. The end game is the only thing that matters. All the micro interactions in between will be forgotten by morning. While deception is an extreme case in general, it is ideal to let others feel smarter or more sophisticated than you are. You make them feel better about themselves. The best way to be well received by all is to clothe yourself in the skin of the dumbest of brutes. Besides, when people discover your true brilliance, they'll admire you so much more for not making a show of it.